This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History. This is your host, Steve White, ready to take you up and down the sports history timeline again. It is December 16th, and this episode is going to be controversial. Well, actually, it's more the theme of the episode than really the true outcome. But on this day throughout sports history, we had a sports movie that created quite a controversy, an NFL game that ended controversially, and a controversial play that resulted in a rule change. All that plus a few more tidbits for you, and a non-sports fun fact about a house-calling dentist in a war zone. I'll kick things off right after this. This episode is brought to you by Firefly Books. From frozen ponds in small-town Canada to packed arenas under bright lights, hockey's journey is 150 years strong. Hockey Hall of Fame Timeline of the Game takes you through it all. 8 defining eras, hundreds of rare photos, legendary names, game-changing moments. Created with the Hockey Hall of Fame, this book is a visual time capsule of the sport's most iconic chapters. Whether you're a die-hard fan or looking for the ultimate holiday gift, Timeline of the Game is a must-have for every hockey lover. Pick up your copy today at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookshop.org. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for everybody. And I'm not just saying that. I'm an actual customer. I've been buying Sterling Soap for over a year now, sampling different products and scents along the way, and I have not come across a single scent that I don't like yet. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. Let's start with what happened on this day in 1999 when the movie Any Given Sunday, directed by Oliver Stone and starring Al Pacino, Jamie Foxx, Dennis Quaid, and Cameron Diaz, was released in theaters. Now, to say that the NFL was less than enthused about this movie coming out would be a bit of an understatement. NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue and the majority of owners did everything they could to stifle production of this movie. Initially, the league was on board with it. Stone was going to get cooperation from league owners to use stadiums around the NFL for location shoots. But when the league got a whiff of Stone's vision for what the film would be, in essence a focus on professional football selling its soul to corporate America, while displaying a lot of the underlying ugliness of the game, such as violent injuries, drug use, prostitutes, well, the league higher-ups wanted no part of it. The team that Al Pacino's character coaches was originally supposed to be the Miami Dolphins, but after the NFL told Stone he couldn't use any logos or trademarks, the team became the Sharks, dressed in black instead. The league office did not strictly prohibit current players from participating, but they did strongly discourage it. A few ignored that suggestion and made cameo appearances anyway, such as Terrell Owens, Ricky Watters, Emmitt Smith, and Warren Moon. And of course, there were retired guys who appeared in the film as well, most famously Lawrence Taylor and Jim Brown. But if it wasn't for the cooperation of one NFL owner, the film may not have actually been made. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones was the only owner of the, at that point, 31 teams in the league to give Stone access to a stadium, which does seem a bit odd considering Jones was one of those first truly corporate owners in the league. Now, the movie had been in Stone's mind going back to the 70s, and it's loosely based on the book You're Okay, It's Just a Bruise by former Raiders team doc Robert Huizinga, and intermingled with a script about a struggling coach written by John Logan. When Stone had his initial idea for the film, it was back in the 70s, and he pictured Charles Bronson as his star. But the project got put on the back burner, and in the 20 years that passed, football and the NFL went from a happy-go-lucky league with players working regular jobs in the offseason to players signing multi-million-dollar deals and owners holding cities and fans over spikes to get new stadiums. When the film was released on this day, Stone says the league amped up the defensive pressure on ESPN and Fox and other sports shows to not give any publicity to the movie. Stone said it was not fun to fight them. It was like fighting the Pentagon. Critics were not overly impressed by the movie. It's got a 51% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The general public liked it a little bit better, and the guys who actually played the game loved the film, saying Stone captured the violence of the game really well. Former Green Bay Packer and Minnesota Viking Greg Jennings said, "A lot of components in that movie are just flat out real. Guys shooting up, doing whatever it takes to stay on the football field, getting the big hit, letting winning and their individual success divide them from the guys in the locker room. It happens." Okay, now to a game that the NFL wishes it could distance itself from happened on this day in 2001, and it was one of the ugliest days in league history and came to be known as Bottlegate. This was Jacksonville at Cleveland in a Week 14 matchup. At 6-6, the Browns still harbored faint hopes for making the postseason, and taking on a 4-win Jaguars team, the prospects for picking up a win looked pretty good. But with 1:08 left on the clock, those prospects were dwindling quickly. Down 15-10 and facing a 4th and 2 from the Jaguars' 13, they needed a touchdown. But first, they needed to get a first down. That's when things went off the rails. Here's Gus Johnson and Burt Jones with a call that day for CBS.
White lines up as the single setback. Couch, pump in, looks backside, underneath. It's caught. Morgan with the catch at the 10. And he did a tremendous job to hang on to the football. Gets the first down, clock still running.
Now just spike the ball. Don't even waste the play. Or maybe they're even calling a play.
And he spikes it. And the clock stops with 48 seconds remaining.
And you know what? What the Jags are saying, when his arm came forward, you actually have one chance to spike it. They're saying that it's intentional grounding because he wasn't out of the pocket. So you have that initial chance to go ahead and spike it, but he faked it. And at that point, when he throws it into the ground, it becomes intentional grounding.
All right, a couple of things going on there. So, yeah, quarterback Tim Couch pump faked the spike before throwing it into the turf. An intentional grounding penalty would not have been tragic. It would have cost the Browns 10 yards, and it would have been 2nd and 20. However, that's not what caused all the hullabaloo that soon followed. Instead, when referee Terry McCauley made this announcement, the crowd began to turn.
Replay buzzed prior to the snap. We'll be looking to see if the last pass was incomplete or complete.
That's the 4th down reception by Quincy Morgan.
Of course, the rule is that once another play has been run, no other previous play can be reviewed. And since Couch spiked the ball legally or illegally, the 4th down completion should not have been reviewable. Replays of Quincy Morgan's catch showed pretty clearly that he did not have possession. But to every single Browns fan in the stadium, it did not matter. It was too late. Another play had been run. After 2 minutes of review, McCauley came back on the field with this announcement.
After review, the pass is incomplete. First down, Jacksonville.
Oh, brother. And that's when the bottles started to fly. Miller Brewing had the beer concession rights for Browns games at this point, and they had just introduced plastic bottles for their concession sales. They'd be safer than glass, easily recyclable, and it would save time and labor. Instead of, pouring the beverage into a plastic cup, the bottle could just be handed to the customer. A 10-second transaction as opposed to 30 seconds or longer. Well, those bottles started raining onto the field, and they just kept on coming. So player and field personnel safety became a concern. Several security folks on the field got hit by flying bottles. Trash cans were dragged down the stairs and heaved over the railing. It was chaos. Then the officials decided that the game was over, with 48 seconds still remaining on the clock, and they sent the teams to the locker room. Well, as the teams and officials tried to make their way through the tunnel, more bottles came pouring down. But the league office was not happy with that decision, and they told the officials the final 48 seconds had to be played out. So back out into the chaos they went for Mark Brunell to take a knee twice, and then the game was officially over. So emotions were running pretty high after this one, obviously. The loss was part of the Browns losing 5 of their last 7 and missing the playoffs. But the thing is, even if you are an upset fan, you're pissed about the calls on the field, you can't just throw stuff on it. I understand the emotion, just not the action. The Browns, who at times as a franchise have a history of making bad situations even worse, did that after this game when Browns owner Al Lerner and president and GM Carmen Policy both refused to condemn the bottle-throwing fans.
It wasn't pleasant. I wouldn't suggest anything like that, but it wasn't World War III. I don't see any terrible criticism that would be called for the fans. I think everybody controlled themselves, considering that they spent 60 minutes out in some pretty bad weather, getting bounced around pretty hard.
Many of the bottle-throwing fans were identified by video and had season ticket privileges revoked. This also ended the sale of plastic bottles at Browns games. Ultimately, the Bottlegate game is largely credited with beer sales limited to 2 per transaction and ending after the third quarter. On this day in 1945, it was the Cleveland Rams and the Washington Redskins in a game that led to a new rule that is no longer needed in today's NFL, and in fact was not needed much after this game ended. This was the NFL championship game, and it was played in frigid Cleveland. The temperature at game time was 8 below. The field was a frozen piece of ice, and patches of ice and snow made running and cutting a bit of a challenge. Players huddled together on the bench surrounded by bales of hay to try to keep warm. The fans actually built fires in the stands. No joke, there is film footage from the game that shows 3 fans smiling and warming themselves by a blazing fire while sitting in their seats. Now, the Rams had been the surprise team that year, going 9-1, and they were favored in this one despite this being their first championship game appearance. The Redskins were the veteran team that everybody expected to see in this game. This was their 5th appearance in 9 years, and they'd won the title twice. The Rams put together an impressive opening drive, marching from their 21 down to the Redskins' 5. But instead of opting for a field goal on 4th and goal, they went for it and didn't get it. So now Washington had the ball deep in their own end. Sammy Ball lined up in what we would now call the shotgun formation, but at this point in history, he was lined up to punt. The snap was low and dropped to the turf. Ball picked it up and threw it to a barren spot out to the right, and he was flagged for intentional grounding. Well, that backed them up even more. On 2nd down, Ball moved to the back of the end zone and looked more like a modern punt formation now, but he wasn't going to kick, he was intending to throw the football. Now, remember, the goalposts at this point in NFL history were in the front of the end zone, and they would be until 1974. So, Ball took the snap, looked to his left, and threw towards Wayne Milner, running an out route. But a gust of wind caused the ball to drop, and it grazed the underside of the crossbar and fell incomplete at the feet of Milner. Now, there was a little-known rule at that point that said any thrown ball from the end zone that hit any part of the goalpost resulted in a safety and 2 points for the other team. So, that gave Cleveland an early 2-0 lead. Obviously, nothing insurmountable, but those points would prove to be crucial. Washington put together a scoring drive later in the half to take a 7-2 lead. Cleveland came right back, and after Bob Waterfield hit Jimmy Benton for a 37-yard scoring strike, that made it 8-7 Rams. Waterfield was also the kicker, and the extra point try was a 10-yard kick. Waterfield hit it 9 3/4 yards. It hit the crossbar and bounced over for the extra point to make it 9-7. It seemed like the goalpost was definitely pro-Cleveland on this day. Waterfield took to the air again and found Jim Gillette for a 44-yard touchdown passing catch. but Waterfield's kick this time was missed. 15-7 Rams. Washington narrowed the margin again when backup quarterback Frank Filchuk, playing for an injured ball, threw his second touchdown pass of the day. The extra point was good, but the Redskins still trailed 15-14. And that's how the game would end. The 2-point safety and the doinked extra point proved to be the crucial points. Washington owner George Marshall was livid after the game, and he successfully lobbied the league to change the rule that had killed his team, making it simply an incomplete pass if a thrown ball struck any portion of the goalpost. The rule became known as the Ball-Marshall Rule, and it remained in effect until 1974, when the goalposts were moved to the back of the end zone. On this day in 1973, the Buffalo Bills' OJ Simpson became the first NFL player to rush for more than 2,000 yards in a season. 20 years before OJ became known for his trial for the double murder of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, he was known as the Juice and one of the best running backs in the NFL. The 1973 season was Simpson's fourth in the league, and an offensive line nicknamed the Electric Company had been put in place to open holes for the Juice. At the time, the league only played a 14-game schedule, and the 2,000-yard plateau was thought to be out of reach. Jim Brown had held the record for the past decade with 1,863 yards. Entering the final game of the regular season against the New York Jets in a snowy Shea Stadium, OJ needed 61 yards to pass Brown and 197 to get to 2,000. Simpson passed Brown for the NFL mark on his 8th carry of the day, and by the end of the third quarter, he had rolled up 147 yards on the ground, needing only 50 more for 2,000. The Bills were on their way to a 34-14 win over the Jets that day, but getting Simpson that 50 yards was top of mind for everybody associated with the Bills. This was well before electronic stat keeping, so a lot of math was being done in the press box to keep up with the march to 2,000, with phone calls from the box to the field keeping the sideline aware of the situation. With 6.5 minutes remaining, Jets announcer Marty Glickman had the call for the historic moment.
OJ carries. He drives downfield, goes for 6-7 yards. He may have 2,000 right now. Unofficially, our totals show that he's right about the 2,000-yard mark right now. He went from the 20-yard line then to the 14-yard line, 6 yards on the play. He's got over 2,000 yards. We saw history made. He don't want to come out there, Marty. He wants to stay in there. That's right. They're practically carrying him off the field. They're dragging him off the field. They're lifting him to their shoulders, and he's being carried off the field on the shoulders of his teammates. What a sight. The entire squad has run out on the field, and they've carried OJ off the field on their shoulders. OJ Simpson with more than 2,000 yards.
OJ averaged a little more than 6 yards a carry that season and amassing the record that stood for 11 years. On this day in 2019, Drew Brees set an NFL record by completing 97% of his passes, including 22 in a row, in a 34-7 rout of Indianapolis. He also threw 4 touchdown passes to move past Peyton Manning into first place on the all-time TD passes list. Brees finished his career with 571 touchdown passes, but has since been passed on that list by Tom Brady and his 649. And on this day in 1980, the Winnipeg Jets set the record for futility in the NHL. The Jets had not won a hockey game since October 17th, which was their third game of the season. Coming into this one against the New York Islanders, Winnipeg was 1-22-7, and they had lost 7 straight. They were winless in their previous 27, which tied them with the old Kansas City Scouts for most games without a win. Side note, the Scouts are now the present-day New Jersey Devils. The game against the Isles got off to a horrible start for the Jets. They were on a couple of power plays in the first period, but that advantage got turned around on them. The Islanders netted 2 shorthanded goals to take an early lead, and then they added another full-strength goal along with a power play goal to take a 4-0 lead at the first intermission. The Jets got a couple back, but it made little difference in the outcome as New York beat Winnipeg 6-2. So that was their 28th straight game without a win. They would lose another 2 to set the mark at 30 straight without a win, which is still the record. The Jets finally won their second game of the season on the 23rd to break the streak. Things didn't get much better for them after that, though. They only won 9 the entire year, never won back-to-back games, and lost 3 games after giving up 10 goals. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. During World War I, a French-born dental surgeon named Auguste Bottlegate used his Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost as a mobile dentist office. He equipped it with a chair, tools, and other accoutrements and drove it around, not only to bases but also to the trenches to perform necessary dental care. Not like cleaning, but more like pulling a tooth that was causing excruciating pain, or performing crude reconstructive facial surgery with plastic pieces that he fashioned. In fact, Bottlegate is credited with establishing the practice of plastic surgery. His Silver Ghost that he drove around was auctioned back in 2013, fetching just shy of $1 million. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for more This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.